I recently had the privilege of chatting with a community member named Matt who built a really massive and impressive storage shed out of electrical conduit and a few other materials. I learned a lot from our conversation and wanted to highlight a few things that stood out to me, starting with the material that he used to cover the outside of the shed. The marine shrink wrap was a new material to me. I'd never heard of it before, and normally it's used to cover and protect boats, but you can buy large rolls of it, and he used it in this shed to basically just create a skeleton on the outside to protect everything on the inside. He said it's a really forgiving material, and he explained how it works.
You just take one sheet and
Hmm.
you basically heat it up and glue it to the other sheet,
Oh, wow.
and it sticks. So this is the wall.
Such a cool material. And like I said, I had never heard of it, but I think it's a really great option for all kinds of builds, both indoors and outdoors. I could see it being really helpful for greenhouses. And as he said in the interview, there's all sorts of different thicknesses that you can get for different things, which, makes it even more versatile for all kinds of different projects. The second thing I learned from Matt was it's all about how you brace it. When I first saw his shed, I just assumed it was going to be 3/4 or even 1 inch EMT conduit just based on the sheer size of it. But in talking to him, I realized that he used a lot of half-inch EMT conduit for the walls and the roof. So don't just assume that half-inch EMT conduit is going to be too weak for your project because it's all about how you brace it. You can add supports, cross braces, different beams, and different designs to reinforce it and get the support that your project needs. And you still might even come out cheaper than you would if you were using all 1 inch EMT conduit with less bracing. The third thing I learned from Matt was not to worry about planning every single detail. I think he said in a matter of 3 weeks, he had his initial sketch, and then 3 weeks later, started building and working on his project. And that's such a short amount of time when you think about the project that he was working on, which was a massive shed. Now, somebody like me who likes to procrastinate on big projects or even small projects, I've got a desk that I've been planning for like 6 months now, and I haven't even started building. I haven't even finished the design. I keep changing things and keep adjusting it and getting new ideas and just trying to model it out beforehand. But he just built, kind of made that original plan, started building, and then made adjustments on the fly. He even changed connectors on the fly. He was using electrical boxes when he started, and then eventually moved on to Maker Pipe when he discovered Maker Pipe connectors. So don't worry about planning every detail beforehand. The connectors are designed to be modular, to be reused. You can change them. You're not welding anything together, so you can adjust something. And if you build, a basic frame and then you see, oh, I need to add more bracing there, or that's too much bracing, I can take that off, or I can reuse those connectors somewhere else. The connectors are designed to be used in that way, so you don't have to worry too much about planning everything ahead of time. You can start working on your project, stop procrastinating, and you can start building that thing that you need or want, and you can make adjustments on the fly. The fourth thing I learned from Matt was using your build to strengthen your build, which sounds kind of wild to say, but the shrink wrap, as we mentioned earlier, has a lot of features and benefits that I think is really cool. But something too that was really helpful is the fact that the shrink wrap on the outside of the frame, when it was tight and he heated it up and had it kind of shrunk around the frame, it's going to add a lot of rigidity and sturdiness to the overall structure. And you can apply that same logic to anything that you build. Whenever you're working on a shelf unit, you might find that adding wood to each individual shelf and securing it with one hole straps or something might really reinforce your build and add a lot of sturdiness to it. This could also mean that you incorporate some features into your frame that also acts as bracing and support. And so, for example, in Matt's shed, he was talking about in the corner building a shelving system and a workbench. So let's say he had 45-degree connectors that he already has there, has those cross braces, and then cuts some plywood into triangle shapes and turns that into a workbench. Now that bracing is supporting the structure and also acting as a workbench or a shelf. And that's just a really great way to kind of get some more out of your build while also bracing and supporting it. And this could be done in no matter what you're working on. Maybe it's a desk that you add a shelf underneath so you can route cables. And maybe, it's a stand for your computer, but it's also bracing. You can incorporate support in your build and also get some extra features out of it. The fifth thing that I learned from Matt was there's a reason that trusses have been a standard building practice for years and years, no matter what material you're using. And he actually has a background in construction and truss building with wood, and he applied some of those principles to his conduit structure. And I'm going to do a blog later on next week about his design and the connectors and things. So stay tuned for that on our website. But in the meantime, you basically just want to think about triangles and trusses. You can Google common truss designs and you can see how those are made normally in buildings and structures and apply that same logic and design to your conduit structures. And basically, you're just making a lot of triangles. You can see in Matt's shed that he used the peak of the roof as the outer edge of the triangle, and then just added some cross bracing from the sides and some vertical supports and just different angled bracing throughout to create those trusses all the way through. And he even modified this truss design as he was building whenever he found out he needed more support, and he added different pipes coming in at different angles, and also added some wooden bracing as well, which is really great too. That's something else that you might want to keep in mind in your project. But there's a lot more that I could say that I learned from Matt because it was chock full of information. I really appreciate him sharing it. I definitely recommend that you check out the interview if you haven't seen it already. There's all kinds of information and helpful techniques that you can use no matter what project you're working on. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next video.